From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Kayode Okekiolu.
Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari launches the National Monitoring and Evaluation Platform, the IMARC, a digital application to oversee project monitoring across the country. House of Representatives resolves to accept the representative of a CBN governor on Thursday, following his letter notifying the lawmakers that he will not be able to honor the invitation owing to health challenges. The Lagos State government completes infrastructure work on its Blue Line Rail project, which is due for commissioning in January.
And on business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria increases maximum weekly cash withdrawal limit for individuals to 500,000 naira.
On sports news tonight, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola pays tribute to Lionel Messi, says the 35-year-old is the greatest player of all time, even without his World Cup heroics.
And from the nation's capital, federal government says it will not be able to complete the narrow-gauge Eastern Railway corridor before the president leaves office due to financing constraints.
International news from London. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has traveled to the United States to meet President Joe Biden.
Corruption and lack of monitoring. The two culprits said to be responsible for the poor implementation of infrastructure projects across the country. And this is according to President Muhammadu Buhari during the launch of the National Monitoring and Evaluation Platform, known as IMARC. The IMARC digital platform, according to the president, is expected to resolve these challenges by providing regular updates on the status of capital projects across the country, including the cost and framework for maintenance after completion. Our State House correspondent Gloria Mezoke reports.
Since the president's return from the United States, he resumes chairing of the Federal Executive Council meeting, first with a minute silence for former Minister of Agriculture and Water Resources, as well as Nigeria's former ambassador to Spain, Demola Seriki, who passed on days ago at the age of 63. Before the commencement of the Federal Executive Council meeting, President Buhari launched the National Monitoring and Evaluation Platform called IMARC. The president believes the IMARC website and mobile application will close existing gaps and engender citizen participation and monitoring of government investments.
Although corruption, which this administration has fought and continues to fight, has played a role in the alarming number of the poorly executed and abandoned projects in the country, we must look beyond it and simultaneously tackle the other contributing factors. This administration has invested more than any administration in infrastructure, but unless we closely monitor our investments, they will yield less revenue.
The project is a brainchild of the Ministry of Finance, and the idea is to entrench transparency in government.
This task was not just in line with the 9 priority areas, but also in sync with my belief that we must move beyond earmarking projects, where we hear about plans to set money aside for a project, to our citizens seeing these projects come to fruition. In other words, we need to transition into earmarking projects. A citizen can take a picture update of a project and send this directly to the relevant ministry, department, and agency, and also to the contractors. The application uses geospatial technology to tag every image review or feedback given by citizens to help determine its genuineness.
Access to the IMARC website for real-time monitoring of capital projects henceforth is displayed as www.imarc.ng by the Ministry of Finance. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the president has forwarded an 819.5 billion naira supplementary budget for the 2022 fiscal year to the National Assembly in response to the devastation caused by floods across the country. In two separate letters read by the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, President Buhari explains that the supplementary budget is to specifically address the resultant food security issues as well as damages to road and water infrastructure.
The year 2022 has witnessed the worst flood incidents in recent history, which has caused massive destruction of farmlands at a point already close to harvest season. This may compound the situation of food security and nutrition in the country. The flood also devastated the road infrastructure across the 36 states and the FCT that affected several sections of major roads and bridges nationwide that are critical for movement of goods and services. The 9 critical projects proposed in the sector cut across water supply, dam projects and irrigation projects nationwide. I have therefore approved a supplementary 2022 appropriation of 819,536,937,813 naira, all of which are capital expenditure. The supplementary will be financed through additional domestic borrowings. This will raise the budget deficit for 2022 to 8.17 trillion naira and deficit to GDP ratio to 4.43%.
Now to the lower house, where it's now certain that the CBN governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, will not be able to honor the invitation from the House of Representatives over the cash withdrawal limit policy. But the lawmakers today resolved to accept a representative in his stead, based on a letter from Mr. Emefiele citing health reasons. In his place, a deputy governor, Mrs. Aisha Mohammed, will brief the Green Chamber. Our correspondent, Terry Kumi, has details of this and other events that unfolded during today's plenary.
Wednesday's plenary in the House of Representatives appears quite eventful, with a commendable attendance by lawmakers.
Everything is on course as discussed.
24 hours after giving the central bank governor an ultimatum to appear before them on Thursday to brief on the Apex Bank's new cash withdrawal policy, the Speaker reads a third letter of absence from him.
Given the urgency associated with the briefing, the Committee of Governors, led by Mrs. Aisha Ahmed, Deputy Governor of Financial Systems Stability, is prepared to brief the House.
The House finally succumbs and agrees to receive representation from the CBN governor.
CBN governor is not alone. He's the head of an institution. So if the remaining are coming on his behalf and they are sufficient, and they will give us sufficient information, I think there's nothing bad about that.
If the governor has said he's out of the country and in good faith is attending to health conditions, if that is the case, would it serve this House to continue to insist on his physical appearance? The Committee of Governors, led by Mrs. Aisha Ahmed, Deputy Governor of Financial System Stability, to brief the House on the new cash policy tomorrow, 10 a.m.
Meanwhile, the House is concerned about the returned stolen artifacts from Germany.
I agree with the German foreign minister in her statement that it was wrong for them to have taken them and even worse to have kept them, hence the gradual return of this artifact to their places of origin. Mandate the House Committee on Culture and Tourism to liaise with the Ministry of Information and Culture and the National Council for Museum and Monument on memorandum and understanding an agreement made on this artifact. 2. Inventory of all artifacts already returned to Nigeria and yet to be returned.
Meanwhile, the House is amending the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act to increase the penalties for female genital mutilation.
the penalty before was 4 years, okay? Now I'm trying to raise the bar to 5 years. Then in Naira terms, the penalty before was...
No, just, we're not going to go to the debate yet. I just wanted to know.
I know.
Okay.
200,000.
So 4 to 5 years. And then 200,000.
Now they are raising it to 1 million.
Okay. 4 to 5 years, 200 to 1 million.
Yes.
The bill scales second reading and will be subjected to a public hearing. In the meantime, a major highlight from Wednesday's plenary session from the point of view of Nigerian broadcasters is the passage of the bill for an act to regulate the practice of the broadcasting profession in Nigeria. The bill seeks the establishment of the Society of Nigerian Broadcasting Professionals Council. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
And now to the judiciary, where Justice Mariam Hassan of the Federal Capital Territory High Court has ordered the interim forfeiture of monies and properties recovered from the suspended Accountant General of the Federation, Mr. Ahmed Idris, by the EFCC. They include a sum of $899,900 over 305,000 naira, and 15 properties in Kano and Abuja. Justice Hassan gave the order while ruling on a motion experte filed by the EFCC in which it prayed the court for an order of interim attachment and forfeiture of the properties in the schedule to the application, pending the hearing and determination of the substantive case. In the supporting affidavit to the application deposed to, the Commission had requested the court to grant, among others, an order approving the interim management of the assets and properties. Justice Hassan granted the motion as prayed, but further ordered that the recovery account sought to be opened by the applicant shall be in the name of a commission as recovery account, and the details of the account shall be reported back to the court within 1 week of opening. Mr. Idris and others are being prosecuted by the EFCC on 14 counts of stealing and money laundering to the tune of 109 billion naira. But to politics now, the Taraba State House of Assembly now has a new speaker. He is Mr. John Bonzena, who was elected during an emergency plenary in the chambers of the Assembly following the resignation of the former Speaker, Mr. Joseph Kunini, reportedly for personal reasons. The letter of resignation of the former Speaker was read on the floor of the Assembly by the Deputy Speaker, Mr. Adama Barkunu, who presided over the emergency sitting. Mr. Barkunu had called for the nomination of a new Speaker, and members unanimously nominated and elected Mr. John Bonzena as a new Speaker. Speaking to journalists shortly after the emergency sit-in, the new Speaker assures of uniting the House to carry out their duties. Now, another round of presidential election poll results have been released exclusively on Channels Television this evening, revealing Nigerian voters' share of preference for the top 4 presidential candidates in the 2023 presidential race. ANAP Foundation, a non-profit organization, funded a poll carried out by the NOI Poll, a leading polling organization which carried out a second round of poll for the presidential election, asking respondents whom they would vote for should the election be conducted today. The result of the poll showed differences in the performances of the 4 candidates compared to the September edition of the poll. The founder of ANAP Foundation, Mr. Atedo Peterside, gave the exclusive release and explained the rationale on our program, Politics Today.
2015, there was a high interest level because people believed there would be a proper election. I'm not, again, this is just based on feedback and what we are told by voters. Yeah. Now, this 2023, President Buhari is leaving, so they know there will be a new president. Mm-hmm. So therefore, the excitement level is high as to who will be a new president. Yeah. One other feature that we've not had since 2011, see, 2011, 2015, 2019, there were only two really serious candidates. Mm. This one, there are at least 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. So the result is that when we're talking about geopolitical zones, each of the top 4 candidates from a different zone, mm-hmm. so they can generate local interest.
So now let's look at the percentage of voters across Nigeria based on the 4 candidates. So putting all of the zones together, this is what we get here right now. Mr.
Yes.
Peterside.
The truth is that if you look at these numbers, if you talk about momentum, nobody has really gained phenomenal traction. Nothing has really changed that much. What has, conversely, look at the refused. Those who refuse to tell you is what has picked up. And that could be, we said it for a variety of reasons, but those who are telling you they will vote for Peter Obi increased slightly. I mean, when I say increased slightly, I mean, let's put things in perspective. 21% to 23%, that's 2%.
2%.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu, 13%, stayed the same. Atiku Abubakar was 13% down to 10%, lost 3%. So nobody has gained or lost more than 2-3%. Yeah.
Nothing really drastic.
I don't know whether that's good news or bad news for all the campaign activity, but it's as if nothing has happened to fundamentally shake, or nobody has
There's no
collapsed.
real shift.
No significant shift.
In part two, after the break, Lagos State Government completes infrastructure work on its Blue Line Rail project, which is due for commissioning in January. Well, that's in a moment. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. President Muhammadu Buhari launches the National Monitoring and Evaluation Platform, IMARC, a digital application to oversee projects monitoring across the country. House of Representatives resolves to accept the representative of the CBN governor on Thursday following his letter notifying the lawmakers that he will not be able to honor the invitation owing to health challenges. Lagos State Government completes infrastructure work on its Blue Line Rail project, which is due for commissioning in January. And Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky meets U.S. President Joe Biden, his first foreign trip since Russia invaded his country in February. Staying with the presidential elections, members of the Big Tent movement, a group which is mobilizing support for the Labour Party, is again asking Nigerians to vote Mr. Peter Obi and other candidates of the party in next year's elections. The Director General of the movement, Mr. Ibrahim Abdul Karim, reiterated the group's position at a clean-up rally in Abuja, where he maintained that the Labour Party is interested in ending public corruption and to drive the reorientation of citizens' mindset towards public services.
If you want to set up people in the path of development, once you set up their mind, you clean all this tribalistic discussion and thinking, all this religious thinking and bigotry in politics, you start thinking of this greed, pride, acquiring anything that you see in front of you, leaders that anywhere they pass, things miss, you understand? This is what we're supposed to change first. This is the cleaning we are talking about. Today we come out to symbolize this activity. Professor Port Otumi has already made it very clear in Lagos, and our team in Lagos have made it very, very clear to everybody to understand. Even our presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, is going to lead this Clean Up Nigeria. You will see us everywhere in the country. You see us in 774 local government doing the same thing. We have to clear people of the old method of doing things and put up the new. That's what we are calling the cleanup. We can't sit in a country where one person will be having 241 houses, according to ICPC, in Abuja alone. We can't sit with people that are committing a humongous amount of money while the other people are just languishing in poverty. The obedient movement are not saying that we are clean, but we are trying to clean up. That's what we said. Even within ourselves here, if anything happened with our rally today, if somebody has lapsed in his own activity, what he's supposed to do, we are going to challenge him. We are going to tell him you have done wrong. If we tell you to print these speakers for us at the cost of 500 naira, you printed us for us at the cost of 800 naira, and we found out you do something, we talk to you. That's in Nigeria. That's the cleaning we are talking about. So we are going to start the cleaning within ourselves before even carrying the cleaning to Nigerians.
Special grace, your president, His Excellency, Dr. Peter Gregory Obi, CON.
The Labour Party presidential candidate Mr. Peter Obi today stormed Calabar, the Cross River state capital, in continuation of his campaign, reiterating his promise to make Nigeria a producing nation rather than a consuming one. Speaking at the UJSONS Stadium, the LP presidential candidate promised to secure and unite Nigeria, put an end to university strike, police brutality and unemployment if elected.
form. I want you to take note of what I'm saying. Please tape it. We will secure and unite Nigeria. We will secure and unite Nigeria. We will ensure there's law and order. We will ensure the rule of law. No more police brutality. No more police being against students. We will ensure that our university function like university. 4 years will be 4 years. No more student strike. We will ensure that we move Nigeria from consumption to production. We assure you, a Cross River State, there's abundant land where we can do cocoa and we process it here for export. We have a port here. We will make enough of work for tourism. We assure you.
And for the ruling All Progressives Congress, the APC, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, this evening visited the party's presidential candidate, Senator Bola Tinubu, at his residence in Abuja. The party's vice presidential candidate, Senator Kashim Shettima, was also present at the meeting. But this visit comes amidst speculations about the role of the vice president in the party's presidential campaign because his name was absent from the Presidential Campaign Council, a decision said to be at the behest of the president to allow the vice president focus on governance. But both men had taken part in the party's presidential primary before Senator Tinubu eventually emerged as the party's flag bearer. Well, here in Lagos, State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu today launched the completed infrastructure for the first phase of the Lagos Rail Mass Transit, the LMRT, also known as the Blue Line. The Lagos Blue Line project is the city's first light rail system and the largest infrastructure undertaken and funded by the Lagos State government. Our correspondent Daridu has the report.
It's the completion ceremony of the infrastructure for the first phase of the Blue Line. The rail project is expected to provide a viable mass transit option for Lagos residents. The mood is right, and the venue, the iconic National Arts Theatre, is one of the stations. The arrival of the governor marks the official opening of the event. It's been a long time coming, and Lagos State officials speak on what this transport infrastructure means to the state.
The construction of the Blue Line has been one of the most challenging projects in Lagos State the Lagos State government has ever embarked upon, given the many issues we've had to overcome. To get to this point, we have had disturbances and delays in the relocation of submarine cables, submarine gas pipelines, and removal of underwater shipwreckages as we completed the sea crossing. But as a state, we never give up. We forge on, and we're here today.
The Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says the project, which is the first of its kind in Nigeria, is a major milestone of his administration and those before him.
This is a government that has kept its promise, that has kept its word, that have given a commitment, because we're people of integrity. We're people that understand and appreciate that once you give a commitment, nothing must stop you. We will now commence the test running of the line in preparation for the formal commissioning for passenger traffic and operation. The formal commissioning will be done by Mr. President himself in the month of January. He has given us the assurance that he will come around to formally commission the rail for us at the iconic Marina Station.
The governor formally opens the track before proceeding on a ride to Marina. The 27-kilometer Blue Line project is an integral part of the intermodal transport arrangement of the Lagos State government. Although the entire stretch is not completed yet, when completed, the train will move from Okoko micro-axis of the state to Marina and expected to convey about 500,000 people on a daily basis. The state government is targeting the first quarter of 2023 for the operations to begin. The train runs on an elevated platform at this corridor, giving passengers a different view of the city from a vantage position. In less than 10 minutes, the train is at Marina, its terminal point. The Blue Line, spanning across 11 stations with Okukumaiko as the starting point, is part of efforts to ease the city's traffic congestions when completed. Dari Idowu, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the Central Bank of Nigeria increases maximum weekly cash withdrawal limit for individuals to 500,000 naira and 5 million naira for organizations. That's on business news. So watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Lagos. Well, Terry Kumi is now here from our Abuja studios with more stories on the news at 10. Good evening, Terry.
Good evening, Kayode. The promise by the federal government to complete the narrow-gauge Eastern Railway corridor before the end of the current administration is no longer feasible. The Minister of Transportation, Muazi Jaji Sambo, stated this while answering questions after the Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House. President Muhammad Buhari had 2 years ago performed the groundbreaking of the 1.96 billion naira rail line project, promising that it would stimulate economic activities in the 14 states it covers. But the Transportation Minister says financing the project has become an issue.
The truth of the matter is that if there was a promise to deliver this line before the end of this administration, this promise is not feasible, because when the contract was approved, it was approved on the premise that 85% will be funded through foreign loan, while 15% will be the counterpart funding from the national budget. Since that approval, we have not been able to obtain the 85% foreign loan for this project. We have been funding it through the national budget on the basis of the 15% counterpart contribution by the federal government. And therefore, funding has been a major challenge for this project.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, says the delay in the completion of the second Niger Bridge project is as a result of the sit-at-home order by the prescribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. According to him, while construction workers work on Saturdays, a 52-day loss as a result of the order cannot easily be made up for. Mr. Fashola was a guest on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
The target date is somewhere April, May, but these dates keep shifting, and people must remember that on the eastern side, our contractors have not been able to work on Mondays for almost 2 years. So that has affected the completion date.
They're not making it up with any other day?
Well, where do you find the new day? If you lose
Saturday,
52,
perhaps?
No, including they work on Saturdays. Construction here is Monday to Saturday. But if you lose 52 or 40, for almost 50 Mondays every year, you lost 52 days of construction. Where do you make that up? And then we've also had some challenges that we had to overcome in terms of timelines. For example, we had to relocate all the transmission lines connecting the east to the west across that river. All of them had to be moved. So again, we lost some days because the power company had to shut down. They had contracts to supply energy. They had contracts to take gas. So all of these things are unseen.
The Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike says the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State is not bothered about the concept of enticing voters with money, boasting that the project executed by his administration in all sectors are enough to buy the people's votes. Governor Wike stated this during the commissioning of the dualized Ahoda Omoku Road in Ahoda East local government area of the state.
Christmas apparently came early for the people of Ekpeye in Rivers State as Governor Nyesom Wike literally popped his gift box during an official visit to the area. He's here to primarily commission the first phase of the dualized Ahoda Omoku Road in Ahoda East local government.
The project is 6.2 kilometers long on each lane.
So if it were to be taken as a single lane, it would have been 12.4 kilometers long. And we have a total of 11.2 kilometer drains of various sizes.
On invitation to the podium, the governor temporarily suspends the event of the day to present a surprise car gift to the bishop of the Anglican diocese of the area. He also reaches out to the traditional institution, ordering a quick process to hand over a staff of office to the newly installed first-class king of the area. And back to the main activity, and elated Governor Wike says he's happy Ahoda is getting the attention it deserves.
Let me now tell you, we are awarding to Jonas Vega from this where he stopped to Omok, straight dualization.
He also warned against the encroachment into government right-of-way by property developers, among other issues.
Some of you have started building areas we have acquired and paid you. We acquired because we believe nobody knows tomorrow. This road can be more expanded. And so we have paid for acquisition properties along this line. Now, because we did not build up to that, you think the land or that property is not your own. We have finished paying. Commissioner of Works, make sure all those new properties coming up where we have acquired, bring all of them down now.
He then commissions this completed first phase of about 6.2-kilometer road. For Governor Wike, his achievement in Rivers State is enough to buy the people's vote, as he presents the candidate of the People's Democratic Party to the people of Ekpeye, who are in Ahoda East and Ahoda West local government areas.
But somebody has to be in office to supervise that job, isn't it?
Well, that's all from the nation's capital. Back to you, Kayode.
Well, thank you, Terry. Now to security. The Department of State Service, DSS in Imo State, says it has arrested a notorious terrorist and suspected ESN leader, Okechukwu Ama Lemedim. And according to the State Director of the agency, Wilcox Idaminabo, the suspect is said to be responsible for the numerous attacks on government facilities, the killing of policemen, and part of a deadly gang responsible for the attacks on INEC office in Owerri and Olu. The governor of the state, Mr. Hope Uzodimma, describes the arrest of the suspect as a welcome development.
You would agree with me that the level of destructions Jima and his gang has done to Imo State, particularly the Olu zone, unbelievably is monumental. And now that the security agencies been able to apprehend him alive, I think it will be a useful source of information to further the investigation and also getting to the root of the matter. Because what is very important now is knowing what is really responsible for the level of killings, destructions that these boys are carrying out in Imo State.
And now for the latest review of the CBN's withdrawal policy and other business stories, here's Will Ibang.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Kayode. The Central Bank of Nigeria, that's CBN, has increased the weekly limits for cash withdrawals across all channels by individuals and corporate organizations. In a circular issued today by the bank, individuals can now withdraw a maximum of 500,000 naira per week, while corporate organizations are able to cash out 5 million naira. The development comes 2 weeks after the CBN reduced the weekly over-the-counter cash withdrawal limit for individuals to 100,000 naira and 500,000 naira for corporate organizations, which, if we know, the policy generated mixed reactions from Nigerians. The revised policy takes effect from January the 9th, 2023. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari is seeking the Senate's approval to restructure the 23.7 trillion naira Ways and Means advances given to the federal government by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The president, in a letter to the Senate, explained that Ways and Means are advances from the Central Bank of Nigeria to the federal government for emergency funding of delayed receipts of fiscal deficit. He further notes in the letter that he had approved the securitization of the Ways and Means balances for a tenure of 40 years with a 3-year moratorium on principal repayment and at an interest rate of 9%. The request has been forwarded to the Senate Committee on Finance for further legislative action. Now, the equities market closed well in positive territory today as investors took a dive in O&O and some Tier 1 banking stocks. Ini John Mekwa tells us more.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, it looks like our wish has come true as the NGX closed with a bold bull taking charge at the close of trade today. We see that with an impressive look on the activity chart as both the volume and the value are up 300% each compared to yesterday. This was just about 100 million yesterday. Now it's more than 400 million and value is more than 6 billion. Unfortunately, the deals is still in the red, in fact, less than what it was yesterday. All of this is because UPDC Real Estate Investment Trust top trades by volume, mostly because of sell pressure, but the share price lost 5 kobo to close at 3 naira 10 kobo. That's after it had traded 245 million. And not getting really close to it is FBN holding it very far away from that, topping the trade also 56 million. FBN holding gained, Geregu gained at the close of trade, UPDC in the negative, the market still in the green, and we are basking and rejoicing with the bull and hopefully to continue until the close of trading this week. That's the stock market report. Is back to you.
Thanks, Ini. We'll keep our fingers crossed. And as always, a quick snapshot of closing numbers for other major equities around the world. And that's a wrap on business news. It's back to Coyote for the rest of the news at 10.
Well, thank you, Will. Still to come on the news at 10, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky meets U.S. President Joe Biden, his first foreign trip since Russia invaded his country in February. Stay with us. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has arrived at the White House with a red carpet laid out and 2 flags standing side by side, the U.S. and the Ukraine's. He was welcomed by President Joe Biden and his wife Jill, and they all shook hands and posed for a few photographs and then met in the Oval Office of the White House. In a short statement posted to the Telegram messaging app, the Ukrainian leader said he was in Washington to thank the American people, the President and the U.S. Congress for their much-needed support. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has met the U.S. President Joe Biden. On Twitter, he wrote, "On my way to the U.S. to strengthen resilience and defense capabilities of Ukraine." He was later seen leaving from a Polish train station. It is his first foreign trip since Russia invaded in February. The Ukrainian president has spoken frequently to world leaders over the telephone and by video call, often from his office in Kyiv. But the surprise visit to a foreign country marks a first since the war began and also signals the importance of Ukraine's relationship with the United States, which has played a leading role in providing military support.
It's an honor and a pleasure to welcome President Zelensky.
The Ukrainian leader met with President Biden on a previous visit to the United States in 2021. Russian and Belarusian forces have continued their joint military drills in Belarus, training urban assault techniques and forest navigation. Footage released by the Belarusian Defense Ministry, said to be shot in Belarus, showed tanks firing missiles, troops training in mock house interiors, and armoured people carriers driving through woodland. Earlier in the week, Russian President Vladimir Putin visited Minsk to hold talks with Alexander Lukashenko, fanning fears that a fresh ground offensive from Belarus would open a new front against Ukraine. Taliban officials have shut down protests after they announced they were banning women from universities in Afghanistan, sparking international condemnation. Here, one such protest taking place outside university buildings in Jalalabad. The ban further restricts women's education after girls were already excluded from secondary schools since the Taliban returned last year. Relatives of a deceased Thai Navy sailor mourned his death after his body was recovered and airlifted back to shore following the sinking of a military ship. The country's Navy Chief Admiral said the sinking would be investigated, including reports that there were not enough life jackets on board. The Thai Navy were continuing to search for 23 missing Marines still unaccounted for after the HTMS Sukhothai sank late on Sunday. Thousands of ambulance workers in England and Wales have walked out over pay, increasing the strain on a state-funded health service a day after nurses went on strike as the government advised the public to avoid taking risks. The government said the deeply regrettable strike would result in fewer ambulances on the road, with only the most urgent, life-threatening cases such as heart attacks prioritised.
I found it very, very difficult. I've been in the service 30 years and never has it come to this point. Now it's come to the point where we're going to have to suffer a little pain, and I mean us, as in the staff and the general public, to maintain the service. So in the long term, we have the ambulance service.
The system will be under very significant pressure today. I think people can see that in terms of the fact that the trade unions are not covering all of the urgent calls, which themselves, Category 3, can become very serious. So we're just saying to people to have that in mind in terms of when they're considering what activities they do today.
Elon Musk has said he will step down as chief executive of Twitter once a replacement has been found. He posted a message to the site saying, "I will resign as CEO as soon as I find someone foolish enough to take the job. After that, I will just run the software and servers teams." This is the first time Musk has mentioned stepping down as chief of the social media platform after Twitter users voted decisively in a poll for him to step down. And scientists have discovered hatchling and juvenile populations of the Galapagos pinkland iguana, an endangered reptile native to a sole island on the Ecuadorian archipelago, for the first time since it was discovered decades ago. Native only to the slopes of Wolf Volcano on the Galapagos' Isabella Island, the iguana is considered critically endangered, and according to estimates, just several hundred are left. Pink iguanas are born green and start to change colour later in life. Scientists and biologists say the discovery is an important step in the conservation of the species. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to the world of sports. Now, the president of the Confederation of African Football, CAF, Patrice Motsepe, says the continent's ruling football body is inspired by the performances of the 5 African national teams that participated at the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. At a media briefing held in Johannesburg, South Africa earlier today, Mr. Motsepe says he is excited by the historic victories of Morocco and its qualification for the semi-finals, as well as the impressive performances of Senegal, Cameroon, Tunisia and Ghana. The Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has no doubt that Lionel Messi is the greatest player of all time, and his opinion would not change even if the forward had not guided Argentina to the World Cup title in Qatar. The 35-year-old, who enjoyed a trophy-laden spell under Guardiola during their time at Barcelona, led Argentina to their first World Cup title in 36 years and also won the Golden Ball Award for the best player, with supporters saying his performance had further elevated his status. And that's where we'll wrap it up on Sports News. I'm Victor Matthias. Thank you for watching. It's back to Kaede with the rest of the news at 10.
Well, thanks, Victor. On a programming note, we'd like to inform our viewers that we'll be bringing the concluding part of the Imo State Christmas Carol, which was broadcast earlier, right after the news at 10 on our DSTV platform. And the main news again, President Muhammadu Buhari today launched the National Monitoring and Evaluation Platform, a digital platform designed to oversee infrastructure projects across the country. The president also this evening met with the APC presidential flag bearer, Senator Bola Tinubu, in the State House. Well, that's the news at 10 for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Kikilu. To have a restful night.